Gentlemen, when it comes to getting into a relationship, your best chance of having that happen is allowing the woman to be the one to pursue the commitment. Your job should be to focus on your goals, and also in terms of dealing with her, to focus on potentially getting a hookup. Now, obviously, if you're watching this show, chances are you probably want more than just a hookup. You want a full-on relationship. What I have found is that when you are the one that is chasing after a specific commitment to a woman, more often than not, it's going to feel like too much pressure. It's not going to be at her timing, and it's probably not going to work out. Now, I've said that on shows before, but on today's show, I want to actually give proof of that concept to you by way of some examples that have recently happened in the media, as well as in my own personal life and the lives of others that I've seen, okay? Because I want you to understand that as much as you may be wanting a relationship, ultimately it's to the woman's timing. And so what you're gonna find is that if you allow the woman to get to the place where she feels comfortable with you and she trusts you and she's having a good time with you, I promise you, she cannot help but do things that are going to help elevate this to another level. Oftentimes by showing way more signals than you could have possibly imagined. But in order for that to happen, you gotta wait for it. So let's go ahead and go through the examples train here, all right? Because I picked out a few examples from the media, as well as some stuff, like I said, in my personal life that I've heard stories of and has happened to me. So first off, we're gonna start off with Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson. No, you do not have to be a fan of theirs or follow them strongly to be able to relate to this story or to understand what I'm talking about in terms of being willing to be patient enough to allow the woman to decide when it's time for the relationship. So for those of you that don't know the story, basically, well, I'm gonna let Kim tell how it was that she came to want to go out with Pete Davidson. He was a cast member on SNL, Saturday Night Live, and she was a host of the show in one of the first shows that they did early last year, all right? And so I'm gonna pull up this quick time and I'm gonna play the clips. I'm gonna stop and start it in parts because, you know, even though it's fair usage, since I'm reviewing it, I don't wanna get stopped by the copyright censor. So let's go ahead and play this clip.
So this is how it went down with Pete. I did SNL, and then when we kissed in scene, it was just a vibe.
Okay, so what does she say there? They had a scene that they had to do together on the show. At the point where he kissed her, she suddenly felt that there was a vibe going on. She liked the kiss. She liked the way it felt. She felt magic and sparks fly. And at that moment, that's when she started to have feelings for him. Okay, so this is also important, guys. For those of you that aren't celebrity stars and, you know, don't have this opportunity every day, when you are on a date, those first couple of dates with the woman, this is why it's imperative that you make some kind of physical move early on to see if she's responsive. Obviously, in this case, it was written for them to kiss, so it wasn't like she had an option, quote unquote. I mean, she had to okay the kiss to happen on air. But ultimately, that was a thing that was predetermined. But when you're on these first dates and you're in your head thinking to yourself, well, should I kiss her? How's that gonna feel? The reality is sometimes you need to kiss a woman so she can get a full idea of what it would be like to kiss you, if she likes it, and if she likes the idea of touching you, okay? And so you gotta break that barrier early. You trying to wait to date 3 or 4 to do this kiss is tripping a lot of you guys up with women that would actually date you and probably have a heightened like for you if you were to do this early on. I've had dates where I've kissed a woman midway through the first date. I've had dates where I waited until the second date to kiss them. I typically tend to feel it out, but I don't usually go past the second date without getting some kind of physical contact or kiss in. At that, if you wait longer than that, it's not to say that things can't happen. It just makes it a lot harder and your probability less likely, all right? So anyway, so he kissed her, she liked it. Let's see what happens next.
Oh shit, maybe I just need to try something different. But Pete does not come to my after party.
Okay, so Very important. So at the point where he kisses her, she's like, you know what? She was obviously with Kanye previously and that situation didn't work out. And so she's already in the mind frame of, I don't want somebody quite like Kanye. Maybe I need to go a different route. And that kiss only helped further solidify for her that maybe Pete's the guy that should be that different guy. Now, another important point that she just got into, which I'll rewind back a little bit if I can. She says,
everyone was at my after party. It does not give me the time of day.
So, after SNL ends, she throws a big old after party to celebrate her being a host of the show. And everybody from the show shows up to this after party except for the guy that kissed her, the guy that she felt the sparks with on set, the guy that she's looking for. And it's Kim Kardashian. Her whole life, for the most part, people have been fawning over her and, fighting left and right to be able to spend time with her, to be around her, to be in her essence. And who's the guy that she's now wanting? The one guy that's not pressed, that's not even there. And so I've told stories on this show before about how I used to pick up women at parties. I would go to a party. If it was a party that was happening at my place, I would wait for like an hour. I would see a girl that I'd want to date or possibly, hook up with or whatever. And I would wait an hour to talk to her. I'd go around the room and let other people say, hey, what's up? How you doing to me? And then I'd finally pay her attention at some point. Now, in terms of me going to other people's parties, what would I do? I'd go to the party. I'd see a girl that I want to talk to. I'd wait about an hour and walk around and say hi to everybody else so she could see that I'm social and that, I'm not just some weird, strange guy that nobody knows. And even though I'm an introvert, when I typically would go to parties, they would be for parties that were being thrown by people that I know. So I wasn't like not talking to anybody. I was very much being a social person. And then at some point, I'd make my way to the woman I found attractive. I'd say hi, talk to them for a little bit, banter. And then at that point, either I take them off to someplace else and, make out or whatever. Or the real power move was to get their information, maybe make out with them, say I had a good time, and then leave. So I would leave parties sometimes at like midnight or like 1 o'clock. And these parties would go until like 4 or 5 in the morning. Why did I leave early? Because I wanted to make my impression. I needed her to miss me, and I would get out so that way she would have a wanting for me to want to see me and spend more time with me than she got to at that party. And the only way that's going to happen is if I call her up a couple of days later to ask for a date. So I'd be more likely to actually meet women at parties and then get dates with them simply because I wouldn't stick around very long. And so what did Pete do? He's on the show with her, had a great time, and then at the point where she's really interested, they had that dynamic kiss, he leaves, doesn't ask for information, doesn't ask if I can see you some other time after the show, he just bails, all right? I don't know why he bailed, but he did, and it was the perfect move because now she's looking for him, and the only way that she can possibly get in contact with him is to try to source out his information, okay? So now she has to make the moves in order to connect with him. And what do I tell you guys all the time? If she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. So let's see what happens.
So a few days later, I called the producer at SNL and I was like, hey, do you have Pete's number? And they were like, yeah.
Okay, so what happened? She really wanted to see him and he was not available. So she had to go back to SNL to go to the producers and say, hey, can you give me Pete's information? So, of her own accord, she had to make the moves in order for this thing to even start off, let alone progress in any kind of form or fashion, okay? Continuing on.
And I text him. I wasn't even thinking like, oh my God, I'm gonna be in a relationship with him. I was just thinking like, heard about this BDE, need to get out there. Like I need to just like, jumpstart I was just basically DTF.
So she said that she heard about his BDE, which stands for big, you know what energy. And that at the time she was just DTF. She was down to frolic. We'll say it that way. So even in her chasing him, she was still taking it as it's just going to be a lightweight thing. I'm not necessarily looking for commitment. And so I just want to maybe hook up a little bit and have some fun. And that's it. And that's where she was at the time. Now, a lot of you guys would get upset because I know it's weird to hear, but some women are just down to hook up with you and don't want a relationship with you. And some guys get butthurt by that. But what you may not also realize is that sometimes the hookup phase and the keeping it casual phase is the step that a woman needs to be able to eventually get to the relationship phase. Because a lot of times men come to them and after one or two hookups, you guys are applying so much pressure to the woman to make it a relationship. But as I tell you guys, it takes a woman 2 to 3 months on average to solidify her feelings. So women need that 2 to 3 months to vet you, to see what you're about, to see what your temperament's like, to be able to build up trust in you. And so she might want to hook up, but still keep it casual while she's doing her due diligence. And if you are the guy that gets angry after 3 dates and is like, well, it's been 3 dates, we've done 2 hookups, why won't you commit to me? A, you're not supposed to be chasing commitment. And 2, this is why you have to wait for her timing for commitment. Now, it doesn't mean you can't pursue hooking up with her. You should definitely do that because that's part of the woman's journey also, is figuring out how you feel and if you guys connect in that way. But you can't let that throw you off and assume because you guys hook up that she's automatically ready for commitment. More often than not, she's not, okay? But there's an article here that goes further into their building relationship. And the article says, Kim Kardashian recalls how Pete Davidson said it'd be 4 months before she was obsessed with him. So this is a guy that has dated other very high-end celebrities, including Ariana Grande, who he was previously almost married to. But he's had enough experience with these hot women that he's around to where he knows, hey, I ain't got to rush in. I know that I'm a catch, and I know if this woman just spends 4 months' time with me, she's going to want me. I ain't got to do nothing but show up and show her a good time. And that's what he did. And so in the article, it says in a confessional on the show, she shared when she knew Davidson might be right. She said, Pete and I have been dating for a few months. We're doing really, really good. Pete said, quote, I'm going to grow on you. Just wait. He knew. He said, I give it 4 months in and you're going to be obsessed. I was like, okay, we'll see. Fast forward to it's been more than 4 months now. They're in a relationship. But notice that what Pete had to do. All Pete had to do was show up, be his authentic self, show her a good time, make her comfortable, maybe meet her kids to make sure that they're comfortable around him too. But at no time did he rush this process. All he did was sit back and wait for her to be the one to pursue the commitment and let him know when she was ready to make it publicly official, okay? And this is not the one case of this happening. I'm gonna show you some other cases also, okay? Oh, by the way, I wanna play this real quick too, because this shows you about women's girlfriends being haters, all right?
After we got together and it was like a thing, Megan Fox texted me and is like, is this shit for real? Because he asked me for your number months ago. And like, I was like, dude, you have a better shot of like me and MGK getting eaten by crocodiles than you ever getting her number. Like,
so now on our end of things, obviously it sounds like the friend is hating. It sounds like Megan Fox was like being a hater, not helping Pete out. I have to give, since I'm not a woman, I have to say that it sounds more like maybe so many guys try to get Kim's number that as a friend, she's being protective and is not sure, like, Pete's a weird guy. So, it sounds like she's hating. But, I mean, she could also be protecting her friend. Chalk it up to the game. That sometimes happens. But notice, even when that happened, Pete didn't try to stalk Kim on social media, didn't try to, somehow break into her house or, try to, get in her grade, or, tweet her on Twitter and be like, hey, I'm Pete, I'm trying to date you, this and that. What do? She doesn't want to give me the number? All right, fine. If I run into her, we'll see what's happening. If not, there's plenty of other women out here. And that's a guy that's also confident about his ability to be able to get more than one woman. And also, and this is important, to not see Kim as the end-all, be-all woman. Yes, if they get together, it's absolutely great. But you know what? Pete knows he's going to be fine if he doesn't get with her. And that applies even less pressure, which will make her inadvertently want to pursue him even more because his happiness isn't dependent solely upon whether he gets her or not. If she's an addition to his life, fantastic. But if not, he'll find another addition, okay? So, but this all goes back to, ultimately, Kim made all the moves that she needed to make in order to get this guy. Why? Because when women like you, not only will they chase after you, they can't help but do things to pursue you to make sure that they get you. And of the two sexes, sorry to say, guys, it's going to be better if you allow the woman to come at you at her pace than you. If you think about the dynamics and the mechanics of men and women, we're stronger, we have more muscles, we can do a lot more harm to them. So us coming at them really hard, even psychologically, is going to make them want to back up a bit, all right? So that's the Kardashian case. Now let's look at another case, okay? Another incident that happened recently was this one with Becca from The Bachelorette and Thomas, who was on The Bachelor, and they both met up on Bachelor in Paradise, okay? Long story short, midway through the season, Becca came onto the island and she met Thomas and asked him for a date, and it was on and popping. So even on Paradise, she came in, day one, had to ask him for the date, okay? They dated on the show. They didn't get, engaged on the show because honestly, it's kind of weird, these shows where they're supposed to date and then just at the end of it, after 2 weeks, propose to the person. They didn't want to do that. So, but after the show, they continued to date. And then lo and behold, a couple of weeks ago, a story comes out that says they're engaged, and guess who proposed? Becca. Not Thomas, but Becca. So, her story here says Becca reveals the surprising person who inspired her to propose. Let's read a little bit of the story here. The Bachelorette star Becca, I think it's Kufrin, recently took the lead when it came to elevating her romance with Thomas Jacobs to the next level. Kufrin proposed to her Bachelor in Paradise beau, and he said yes. Now she has shared some interesting tidbits about how she was inspired to pop the question and why she decided to do it. So, scroll down. In a chat with E! Online, Kufrin noted that she and Jacobs knew we wanted to eventually get married and spend our lives together. Ahead of their engagement, however, he obviously just thought he was going to be the one to do it. No question asked. Kufrin decided she wanted to change things up. As she was about to finish the Bachelor Live on Stage tour, she started planning a proposal. She explained, quote, "I just want him to know how committed I am." After several weeks of planning, she popped the question to him in mid-May. The Bachelorette star had some butterfly flutters heading into the big moment, but she was also confident because I knew he would say yes. He's not the type of guy to feel emasculated. Kufrin successfully pulled off her plan, and she felt, quote, "This was the first one that really felt like my own and just so special for us and for the relationship." And then she talks about her previously being on The Bachelor and getting engaged, and it was whatever. So anyway, what do you see here? You see the situation where this woman knew the guy that she wanted and didn't want to wait and already knew that she liked him and wanted to spend her life with him. And so she decided to make the moves to propose. Now, there are going to be men that watch this, and honestly, there's going to probably be, my audience is like 9% women. There's going to be women that watch this that say, that's stupid. I would never, ever propose to a guy. But really think about this for a second, guy. It's not that the woman has to come right out with a ring and say to you, hey, and get on one knee and say, I want you to marry me. But think about how a man even knows that a woman is ready for that step. And it's simple. If you're a patient guy who's just showing up, being the best version of you that you can possibly be, and she recognizes that you're a catch and that you have value and that she wants to spend her life with you, she's going to start hinting to you things that indicate that she's ready for that next step. Hey, we've been together for a while, so where do you see this going? Do you see us getting married? I want to have kids with you someday. How's that going to happen if we're not married? These are things that women that want you to propose will say to give you the idea that, hey, maybe it's time to propose. But that usually, the best version of that is it usually doesn't happen until she vocalizes that she's actually ready for that step to happen. So in that way, women should technically still be coming to you and proposing, i.e. letting you know that they want to spend the rest of their lives with you because they see that you're the catch that they want and they don't want to risk losing you to somebody else and they want to be locked down. Now, interestingly, another example within the same article, she talks about who inspired her for the proposal. And she says, what Kufrin's fans likely never considered was that there was someone else who inspired her to take the reins on this. It just so happens, get ready for it, Judge Judy Schindlin, aka Judge Judy of the TV show fame, proposed to her husband decades ago rather than the other way around. As she told DuJour, she had been in a relationship with a criminal defense lawyer, Jerry Schindlin, for a while, but he wouldn't commit to getting married. So in other words, he's playing hard to get. He's like, I don't know if I want to do that. We're already together. I'm good. It is what it is. So she took charge. She pulled out a date book and, quote, I did propose to him, she stated. I said to him, where is this relationship going? Jerry, however, was resistant despite being concerned. Quote, and he tried to weasel out of it with his, well, you know, why do we have to get married? Whatever. He finally capitulated. I told him to pick a date. He picked Flag Day. So, even in Judge Judy's story, you have a guy there that's kind of playing hard to get. I'm sure that probably hit her ego a little bit, like, I'm not good enough to marry, like, are you freaking crazy? And she, of her own accord, said, look, we're picking a date, so pick a date because we're getting married. So again, what does this show you? For all you guys that are worrying about, I've been dating a girl for like a year, I don't know if she's going to want to commit, blah, 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 blah. If you're doing everything right and you're showing her, you're just through your actions and through her daily interaction with you, you're showing her through that stuff why it is that she has no choice but to want to be with you long term, then women are going to see that, and they're not going to be able to help themselves but to want to get with you and stay with you long term. And again, like she put out here, where's this relationship going? We're gonna get married. Can we pick a date? Like, those are questions that you will not have to ask because women will come to you. Now, these are celebrity examples, and I know people getting on celebrities about like, oh my God, it's just celebrities. It's not the same as our life and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I did want to give some real life examples. So first off, my mom and dad. My mom and my dad, they met in 77, and they dated for 5 months, and then he was in the army, so he went off to Korea to fight for like a year and a half or so in the Korean War or something like that. Anyway, he gets back into the States, and as my mom tells it, he had her meet him at his mom's house. So she goes there and waits all day for him, and he gets there, and then they, back together. And so his plan, I don't know if it was his plan, but I think the Army was going to restation him in California. And so my dad was like, hey, I'm going to be moving to California, and I really want you to go with me. I want us to live together. And my mom was like, I'm not going to live with a guy just to be his live-in girlfriend. The only way I would do that trip is if we were to get married. And my dad said, okay. And then 2 weeks later, they were married. So who in that story asked who to marry who? Obviously, it's not that my mom had an idea that if she put that out there that he'd say yes, but she loved him, she cared for him, and she already knew that she wanted to be with him in a long-term relationship. And he probably saw the same thing, but was just like, maybe I just got back. We probably need to live together so we can, date for a while longer before we make it official. And she was just kind of like, oh, we can just cut all that and just get married now. But she's the one that put it on the table, okay? And so again, this is another example of when women like you and see value in you, they are gonna, if they're feeling the vibes of I want to commit with this person, they're gonna let you know. Like, women can sometimes be passive and be subtle, but I'm telling you, they will really let you know that they are ready for you to be the person that settles down with them and that they want it sooner than later, okay? And this is important because so many of you guys out there are worried or anxious or thinking that you got to do all this stuff. You got to say all these things. You got to try to overly convince a woman that you're worth being committed to. And if you just show up and be trustworthy and be better than like 95% of the other guys out there that she's dated and show her a good time and be able to listen to her, you doing these things and, doing that consistently for like a year to a year and a half to 2 years, a woman's going to be like, oh my God, this guy is consistently great to me. I want to keep this ball rolling, but he hasn't said anything about commitment. So, and I know that I want that. So now I got to go to him and start talking about that talk about, can we be together? Or are we still going to be in a long-term relationship? Like, where's this going? Yada, yada, yada. But they want to do that. They want to love you so much that they have to come to you and ask you to please marry them. Okay? All this to say this is that whether it's in the early dating phases or whether you've been dating for a year or two or whatever, the woman that you're dating or that you've been in a long-term with, if they like you enough, they're going to be the ones that are going to let you know when they're ready to take things to the next level. So it's not something that you need to concern yourself with. What you need to concern yourself with is being the best version of yourself that you possibly can, making her feel good, making her look good, and building trust. If you do those things, then the commitment of its own accord will eventually come by way of her coming to you. But if you're the one, sorry, I ate earlier. If you're the one that's constantly trying to chase after commitment, you know what's gonna happen? You're gonna be the one that's doing stuff like this. Hey, so we've been together for a while and I just wanna know, like, where's this going? And do you really see me as the guy that you can be with? And, and again, it's not fair, but of the two sexes, you do not look like you're coming from a position of strength when you're the one doing that. Women, because of their femininity, they can do that and still be seen as a strong feminine woman because it is in their nature to want to pursue relationships. It's in their nature to want to pursue togetherness. And so you have to let her play that role. When you try to take over that role, it looks effeminate. Sorry to say, it's not fair, but it's true. It looks effeminate. It makes you look like you're needy, that you're desperate, and it gives off these vibes of a guy that's ultimately not confident in himself. And I know you want commitment, but you gotta be patient. You gotta go at her pace. You gotta let her come to you. You gotta be the guy you need to be, to just be there and be trustworthy, but let her be the one to come to you. And I promise you, if she's coming to you asking for commitment, it's gonna be a lot better and a better chance of it sticking long-term than you going to her and then because she doesn't want to hurt your feelings, reluctantly agreeing to be in a commitment with you, okay? So just take these examples. Hey, my own personal life, the relationships that I've gotten into, all the women that I've been able to date for a long-term period of time started out with me taking them on dates, showing them a good time, and doing like Pete Davidson and just waiting and just sitting back and saying, you know what? When she's ready for a commitment, she'll come to me. And then 2 to 3 months in, like clockwork, hey, Harry, so like we've been dating for a while and are you seeing anybody else? And I want to know, like, what are we? And my friends are asking questions. And so can we possibly talk about getting in a relationship? And I'm sitting there like, I expected this to happen. I don't say that to her, but in my head I'm thinking, oh, like clockwork, just like the last few women that I dated. 2.5, 3 months, like clockwork, they're coming to me. So why would I go to them asking for a commitment when I know if I'm just being my regular old self and doing the right stuff that they're gonna ask for it? And it ends up looking a lot better on your end of things, all right? Just some things to consider. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in more of this content, go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/HarryWilmington. If you want to show your support, scroll down in the comment section and leave a nice little monetary donation. You can also go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, click on the tip jar tab, and give a monetary thank you that way as well. Also go to the website to check out my eBooks, audiobooks, and programs, all designed to help you date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. That's it. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm out. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Introvert Dating Success Podcast. Visit us at introvertdatingsuccess.com for more great tips on attracting women using your natural introvert charm.